what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Marketing podcast, where I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and I'm excited to chop it up with you today. Today for episode 158, it is part 2. That's what I want to focus on, of how marketing is an investment in your company. Last week, I talked about how it's an investment on your company. The ROI should be on your time. Today, I'm going to talk about how marketing is an investment in your company, and you should get a return on your investment in regards to your activity. So, before I get started, my housekeeping is, of course, to my worldwide listeners, my subscribers, locally, domestically, to internationally, thank you for rocking with me. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for rating and writing comments, sharing, doing reviews. I'm still at 19. If you can get me to 20, 21, 22, thank you. I'll give you some love on the show. And for my first-time listeners, thank you for joining me today. My name is Nathan Webster. I'm glad you can join me. Hopefully, you can also watch me on one of my Instagram pages. I have a personal and professional. If you don't know it, go into the show notes and you get to see that I included a link. But I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube. Maybe you found me on YouTube Shorts. Thank you. If you can, like the show, subscribe, download today for the full episode if you're just seeing a short. So let's get into the show. This is part 2 of the marketing of what I say. This is an entrepreneurship opportunity here. Is Entrepreneur 101. It's what you should know, what they don't teach you, and what I've learned from consulting with other companies and other businesses. This is where, it gets tough. This is where it gets real. As a matter of fact, let me take off my glasses, because we're going to get down to the real deal. Holyfield. Let me make sure I'm good on everything. All right. So last week, I talked, and I'm just going to do a quick high-level recap of what I was saying last week when it comes to you working in the wrong environment. I gave you the example when I was working at the wrong company. It was horrible when it comes to the work environment, toxicity. It wasn't a world-class organization. It could have been. It should be. Still to this day, it's not. I don't know why it's not, other than it was bad leadership. Leadership is responsible for the vision. They also, I don't want to get too much into that because I already talked about it. If you haven't heard it, go back. But if you listened to it last week, I talked about it. And that was really for me to get you to understand that in order for you to get the best production, you have to have, 1, the right mindset, 2, be in the right environment, and 3, make sure that you are staying close to the why and the reason you started this journey as an entrepreneur. Now, marketing is the same thing in regards to, as I mentioned last week, in order to succeed, there's failure baked into the process day in, day out. There is failure that's baked into it. And I said last week when I was, I hear sirens. I apologize if you hear that, but I do live next to a fire station. But I'm going to keep going. So this is where I was said last week when it comes to your blood, sweat, and tears, that sweat equity. If you are not feeling it here, right? It's either affirmation or maybe it's that I don't know what else to call it, but that gut feeling of, or that satisfaction of, man, that feels good. Man, that feels good. There's no other way. I don't know how else to describe it. But when you're working on your business and you see something come to fruition, man, there's not enough words, and sometimes there's not any words to describe it. So today, I want to talk about how you can get there while you're working in the minutia of the business. And like I said last week, before I had my office, I was working Monday to Friday. I sandwiched working on the business, and when I got into my office, it was Saturdays. And still to this day, I still do it. And some days, you got to do both. You do what you got to do because you wear all the hats, right? So here's where I want to talk about what does that activity look like, because marketing is an investment that you should be cashing in on every single day. And the days that I'm talking about is, or what the day looks like for you, if you're working in your business, is how can you get a return on your activity? What does that activity look like? It can mean different things. It could be you working on what I will say, you're going to hear me say I say spear a lot, and I talk about sports a lot. So I give those analogies because in the sports, this is you working on the offense, right? You are in the offense. You're running plays. It's either a play to score or you're doing a play to get in the scoring position. And the defense is making sure that you're doing everything you can to not take any L's or not getting scored on. And of course, you might get scored on, but that doesn't mean you might not win the game. The goal is to win the game, but that's the activity, but that's a full package. And so the tip of the spear is marketing. It is in sales. And you go to the base of the handle. That is the team. That is the base. That is the operations. That is the systems you put in place. And so your activities matter. I gave you the example a few weeks ago when I talked about LinkedIn, and I showed you at a high level how to use that platform. I use that for a couple of reasons. So I'm going to give you a couple of acronyms, and I apologize if this is a lot of information at one time. Just go back and listen to it. Do your research. Write it down. I know you might be listening in the car or whatever, but bookmark it, whatever the case may be. But make sure you understand, for me, what's important is the CLV. It's the customer lifetime value, and that comes back to the branding. That's why I'm a brand marketer expert, brand marketing specialist, brand marketing consultant, is because I'm always focused on the customer lifetime value, the CLV. And that is due to all the work that the company has done to keep the customers engaged and loyal, to where if the customer lifetime value is going to be $1,000, and I'm putting an arbitrary number, they're going to get that $1,000, okay? Now, if they can add another product, and this is where you understand how the product life cycles work, or you understand product extensions, when you have M&As, those mergers and acquisitions, where they can add another horizontal or vertical to their business, it makes sense because you want that brand equity to go up. Like, for example, Apple, they're a $1 trillion company, and they started off with a computer. Now look what they got. They went into verticals and horizontals, and it's amazing to see. And it's not like they created something from scratch, right? Except for the iPod. But the iPod kind of already existed as an MP3 player. I won't get into that, but what I want you to understand is your activities when it coming back to your being an entrepreneur. It's what they don't teach you. It's not what they don't tell you, where you have to learn the difference of working on your business and in your business. And the return for you is making sure when you're working in your business, that's the activities that you're doing, to where you maintain a sharp tip of the spear, to where the very base, the handle of you working on your team. You're like, Nathan, that can mean many different things. Absolutely, you are correct. This is where you should be deploying, like, for example, a SMART goal. Do you know what SMART means? It stands for specific, measurable, and almost analytical, analyze, and no, that's not. That's part of the next one. I'll get to that. Not accessible. Now I'm tripping. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. You can do a SMART goal. There's lots of different images and write-ups you can do on that. If you want to go about it in that way of how to ensure you're running, say, that activity correctly. Activity mean being very specific. You can also do it in my PM days. I wasn't an official PM. I need to say that. But when it comes to project management, I always use a Six Sigma, and I also do Six Sigma within the marketing of DMAIC, which the goal is to eliminate all waste as possible down to like a fraction. And the DMAIC stands for I almost said deliver. You define, you measure, you analyze, improve, and control. At the end of the day, the activities do need to be measurable. You do need some sort of analytics. You do need some sort of dashboard to understand what's working and what's not working. As I said last week with marketing, you're trying to figure out what works by what's not working. So you will fail before you succeed. You don't want to have a one-hit wonder too. So you want to continue to figure out what does that mean for you and your activities. If you're networking, say, as I use LinkedIn, as I'm networking, I'm trying to get maybe a sale. I have to have a system in place that allows that process to evolve in those tasks. I can check the box, I shouldn't make the whole thing a box for me to check. There should be multiple boxes to check to see whether or not I'm doing what that. Well, I shouldn't say to see. You will be able to see if you are checking the boxes. I want to make sure that's clear that it's a system, okay? It should be a linear system. As a non-linear person, this is where it's linear for me. I'm using LinkedIn as I set out to find these sort of people. I want to connect with them. I want to have a relationship with them, not a transactional relationship. From there, I want to see if we can do business together. And from doing business together, I want to see if we can then work together in a way that's both beneficial for me, my company, them, and their company, because I do B2B. The only B2C thing I do is my conference. B2B is much harder because I only have a couple of decision makers. Some people might say, well, that might be easier. Well, I won't get into that. But B2C is I've created a segment, an avatar of folks that I'm looking for. Like my conference, more than likely, it's going to be folks that are entrepreneur-minded, key decision makers at different levels. And again, that's something different. I already talked about it in a few podcasts ago. You can look it up. It's called Let's Connect Conference. If you're interested, there's a link in the show notes. But that's a different story for a different day, not this podcast. And the return for activities, you want to be clear in what you set out to do for the day. Or it could be for part of the day, however you want to structure it. But your goal is to get a return on activity. Just like as I tell all my clients, the goal is to get you to run ads. That is the ultimate way to have buyer confidence in your product, is having a potential customer, a potential client, see that you are marketing to them, which makes them feel somewhat special. And they're like, oh, this is a big deal. If you're not doing any ads, you're kind of missing out here. I'm not going to lie. But this is where this called a return on ad spend, or ROAS. But you also will need to learn the CAC, what we call the CAC, the client acquisition cost, or customer acquisition cost, or whatever you want to define it as. But you want to learn how much activities you need to do, right? You need to figure out how much those activities cost to also land that client. You may hear that on Shark Tank a lot. What is your cost of acquisition? It is important because that means you have measured your activities to the bottom line of your investment, of your time. Sometimes what I run into is folks in the entrepreneur space, they don't include their time in their price. And this is where I say that's part of your cost. And the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, placement, and then promotion. I do believe price is number 2. If you don't set the right price, you're not going to get paid. Well, people say, well, it's too expensive. I'm like, what are you talking about? Or they go into the price. I'm like, no, you're thinking cost. The cost is not the price. You have to have margin in there for you, your team, and your company. You just can't charge the product, especially when it's like, and I'm just going to use food, for example, because there's very small margin on food. If you're only charging just to pay for the receipt that you paid for the food, you're not going to go very far. You still got operations to pay for. You got electrical. You got, not electrical. O&E. It's ops and, I'm blanking on my acronyms today. Basically the overhead. I will just say that. All the overhead expenses. Whew, that was hard. The O&E, overhead expenses. So when it comes to understanding, developing those activities that get you the return on the work you've done by working on the business, of your time and the investment you put into doing the research to create this product, your activity should reaffirm all that you have done that has put you in this current position you're in now as that leader in the space. And I will say, you should have that mindset to be a leader in the space, not just to get a slice of the pie. I understand that I do. Just like they said in the very beginning, separate yourself from your competition. I understand that, right? But which means you put yourself on an island, but at some point you got to come back and you have to compete, right? So You learn that along the way. They don't talk about these things except for you learning it in the throes or when your head is in the lion's mouth, right? When that dragon is breathing down that fire on you and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? And so even though this is Let's Talk Marketing, right? I know I have entrepreneurs on the show. I know that when we talk about the hard road, the journey ahead, or the journey that was behind me, I don't want to go through those things. I will have to come back and ask you and say, have you put in the work to where you are doing activities that you see results? Because that's what we get paid on, results. We don't get paid on potential. We don't get paid on our hope or our vision. We do when we're working on the business, right? But now when you're working in the business, those activities need to be measured, analyzed, and hopefully, going back to Six Sigma, they are improved so that you can control the controllables and scale, or if you just want to sustain the current level that you're at. But like I kind of said with Apple, they're not dominating because they continue selling desktop computers to schools, which I don't even know if they even sold them. Maybe they just kept it simple, but obviously that's not what we're like. I grew up in the 80s with the Apple computer playing Oregon Trail. That's not the same computer I have today. That's right in front of me. So we have to evolve. And part of that, not part of it, honestly, all of it comes back to how you design the business since day one. Now, I will say part of that also has a lot to do with how you run your day-to-day minutia activities. And if you're just going in circles, it's because you haven't taken the time to come back, look at it. It could be reflecting, it could be meditating, it could be a consultant looking at you and saying, we got to fix this, or let's scale it, or we got to retool this, or we need to add something else. It may take another set of eyes, which is totally okay. Like I said, you don't need to hire me. Go find someone. The main thing that you need to do to get a return on activity is do what you do best. And I'm sorry, I should have said this from day one, or from the very beginning. You need to stay doing what you do best. If you start trying to do marketing when that's not your skill set, your day-to-day working in the business is going to hurt your tip of the spear, because that means you will dry up your funnel, you will dry up your marketing, and potentially you could hurt your marketing, right? Because you may have, I'm not going to go there. No, let me finish because I can end with this. When people, I do find it funny. I do find it funny. I'm going to come back to the example of the organization that I said was highly dysfunctional, toxic, and it was good, great people there, but man, a subpar product. When people are looking for something more, not just like even more money, right? But something more, and they are looking at where they can get it from, you should be looking at what you're doing to say, this is it. Like, I can get it from here, right? And I'm going to use sports. If you want to win the championship, you got to play harder. And this comes to not just always working harder, but working smarter. If you are not in the position of able to put your best foot forward, not just by working hard and smart, you're hurting yourself. I don't want you to hurt yourself. Especially doing what you love to do is awesome. Like I said, it can't be explained. But if you're not happy, what's the point? The day-to-day should also work with the vision. They shouldn't conflict. So please take the time and develop a system that you can analyze, continue to improve, to dominate, not to get the sliver, but to have the whole thing. You're worth it. You're great at what you do. You need to stay in your lane and do what you do best, because that's what God created you to do. So if you're not doing it, that's a problem. Where's my fire engine? Where's the sirens, right? Sound the alarm. This is what you're not doing. If you're not staying in your lane, working in the day-to-day stuff, there's no way you can get a return on your activity, because that core that you do should be paying your bills, right? If it's not, what's broke? What's not working? What should be implemented? What needs to be added? What needs to be refined? What needs to be streamlined? This is where you can get someone. I'm more than happy to help you, but this is where the return on your activity is important. Like I said, the goal from all my clients is for them to put out an ad that they are comfortable with and they get results with. And when my clients get results on their ads, man, you just see that glow in their face, and that glow is so happy. They have a different smile, and they are excited about the work that's ahead of them. But they also know that it can only go for so long, because they got to go back to working on the business, because now as they're working in the business, they haven't built out the model to handle more, right? Because when you're in working the more, when I was in that organization, I didn't finish the story. Sorry, this is where my nonlinear piece is at. When I was working in that organization, people didn't know how to scale the more because the leadership didn't give them the vision. Even though they were experts in their field, they were so cluttered with the negativity and the toxicity, they couldn't think of how to make their product better, even though they were the subject matter experts in their field, like in the industry, in the area. How can you not improve that? Now, not everyone was like that, but you heard, oh man, I'm not trying to focus on the bad, but this is, as I was saying with Sears, people were already talking about them before they went out of business. People were talking about look at all the companies that were defunct, and see, people said something about their leadership. It starts with leadership, but it doesn't end with leadership. It ends with execution. And nowadays we have the technology to where you can start measuring, analyzing, getting the metrics, create whatever dashboard you need so you can be successful and do what you do best. Again, you need to do what you do best. If you're not doing what you do best, well, you need to change something. And that's the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship, is you get to decide how you go about getting better, being better, living a better life. Man, there's nothing like it. And and there's no way I'm going back. There's absolutely no way I'm going back. But in order for me to not go back, I got to dominate. I have to crush it, right? So hopefully these 2 episodes have helped my entrepreneurs. I know for me, this is something I can talk about all day long when I get around other like-minded people. We talk about systems. We talk about, especially marketers, we can say all the things that we do and how we do it. And I'm not going to take that and say, okay, I want to do that now. No, because I can tell you how I do it, but you're not me. So this is what I say, do what you do best, because the way you can be a blessing to someone, that's what God created you to do. So whatever that value proposition is, figure out a way where you, as you're working in your business, you're getting return on the activities that add to the things that you do working on your business. Okay, that's just so important. Please put those things together and say, if it's a calendar or if it's a task or whatever, a to-do list item, just say today, whatever. Did you work on the business? Did you work in the business? Typically, people work too much in the business and not on the business. And that's what I said in the last episode. I'm working better at delegating, because that's one of my Achilles heels. I like doing a lot of things. I love this. And when you love what you do, you don't want to stop. But I did say at one point in time, I will die, right? But at one point in time, my business will no longer be what is keeping me working in the thing that I love to do. So that's definitely a whole nother show. But that is the end of this show. And so I hope that has helped in your journey of moving you along the next steps of working on and in your business. If you need any help, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can reach me at info@nwebsterllc.com. And for those listening around the world, thank you. Thank you for sharing. If you believe someone needs to hear this, please share this with them. Please. If it's a short, you found me on YouTube, please share this video with someone that needs to hear this. Just a little snippet or whatever the case may be. Because sometimes we do feel like as entrepreneurs, we're alone. We're unicorns. No one else is going through what we're going through. And that's not true. That's not true at all. We're out here, y'all. We're out here. And this is us staying together. And as I said before, you got to be you. Be you. There's nothing like doing what you're doing and doing that at a level of world-class excellence, superiority, and setting the standard, because people deserve what's best for them instead of being hustled, being scammed, getting bamboozled, getting blackmailed, just bad business, right? So be you. Don't try to do what other people do. Just be you. Be you. Be you, y'all. Be you. I tell you, it's worth it. You got to get a return on it, and you're going to love it. I promise you. I'm a living proof, baby. I'm a living proof. And if you want to see it in person, come out to the Let's Connect conference. Check it out in the show notes. So, y'all, I wish you nothing but the best. So until next time, dream big and Godspeed.